Alright, very good morning, Twitch fans. Once again from the flight deck, welcome back to A Pilot's Life with Captain Nabs. We are here for yet another leg of A Pilot's Life. As you can probably see from the screen here today, we are in Prince George, British Columbia. This is where we finished off last time, and we are going to be continuing on from there, and we're going to be going to, where are we going today? We are going to Puerto Vallarta, all the way down south in Mexico, on the west coast of Mexico. It's a long flight today. It's a good 5 hours flight today, just because of the length, the distance we got to travel here, and this is a normal sun destination for everybody in North America anyways. It's one of the normal sun destinations, so it's not a particularly realistic flight at this point in time, since all flights in Canada to Mexico and the Caribbean have basically been banned for last month and this month, for March and April, and they can resume in May, and I think they've already started selling quite a lot of tickets for May, but they were trying to discourage people from traveling as this third wave was sort of surging, so all the Canadian airlines voluntarily canceled all flights from Canada to Mexico and the Caribbean, all the sun destinations where people were taking vacations, even though they probably should not have been. But I'm not going to moralize. Suffice to say that this is not something that's happening right now, but the great thing about flight simulation is you can do whatever it is you want. You can fly defunct airlines, you can fly routes that don't exist in the real world, you can just have some fun. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to get this flight going. My apologies for starting the stream a little later than I had originally planned. I'm going to try not to make this a habit, but go figure, the first time that I actually tried to publicize a stream schedule in advance, of course, something got in the way, and I was unable to get online at the originally prescribed time. So isn't that just always the way it happens? And that's one of the reasons why in the past I've been a little bit shy, perhaps, about publicizing stream schedules in advance, because I know things often change in my life. Things do not go according to plan, and then I end up, not showing up at the time that I had originally planned on. So, that's not something I want to necessarily do, not something I want to be in a habit of doing, but that's just, in this case, it's just the way it happened. But it seems to happen all the time, so that's why I try not to commit to streams. But I will try to create some kind of a schedule, and I'll try my best to stick to it, because I know a lot of you guys out there are really kind of enjoying these streams nowadays and want to know when I'm going to be online. So I'm going to try to put a little bit more effort into scheduling them in advance. It won't be the same time and day every week or anything like that, because just frankly my schedule just shifts from week to week. But I will be trying to put in some effort into actually at least a day or two in advance, picking a time that I'm going to be available and getting online at that time, so that you guys know in advance when the streams are happening. So in the meantime, we really need to get this flight underway, because again, I'm 30 minutes behind where I wanted to be, and it's a long flight. It's not one that's going to be quick and easy. So, just a quick walkthrough of my pilot's life, just because it's been a little while, and it's actually a new month. It's April. Happy April Fools, everybody, yesterday. I read some good stories. FS Elite had a great one, and apparently somebody said that Disney World Canada was coming too yesterday, so I thought that was... And I almost believed it for about 30 seconds. I believed it, then I'm like, wait a second. But I did get paid, because yesterday was April 1st, so I got $230 for my flying in March. So not too bad. So it gives me a total of $1,100 in the bank account. It's not terrible. And I got 306 experience points. We're slowly getting our way up to captain status. I'm in no particular hurry. I'm enjoying the adventure along the way here. And a quick summary of what we're doing after this. Already Season 5 is halfway done with this one. After this, we come back to Vancouver, and then we have to go back to Puerto Vallarta again and do a different triangle. Then we come up through Victoria to Vancouver. This is going to be an interesting one, because Victoria to Vancouver is going to be a really short stream the day that it happens, and I would love to try and tack it on to the end of this stream if I could, because it's just such a short flight in and of itself. I'd love to do a turn, but I don't know if that can happen, because just, trying to find this much time, unfortunately, this is a really long leg. And ditto for this one too. I would love to do like Victoria to Vancouver to Winnipeg, but again, a fairly long leg here. I might be able to tack these two together as one stream and do a little turn in the middle there, but we'll see what happens. And of course, then after Winnipeg, we go down to Phoenix and come back up to Vancouver, and that's it for this schedule of A Pilot's Life. And then we'll see what else we get. I am not sure what I'm going to do next, if I'm going to carry on with WestJet. I do like WestJet because of the schedule, but after Aerosoft CRJ came out, I've got some other things I would love to try, and one of them would be trying to find a job where I could actually fly that CRJ around and fly a pilot's life in what am I trying to say? In Microsoft Flight Simulator. So Republic mostly has E175s. You could do those with a CRJ. It wouldn't be terribly realistic. What was the other one? SkyWest would be another one that runs some RJs. So I'm starting to think towards, and I'm not 100% sure, wow, what a network. That would create some interesting, and a lot of CRJs. It's basically almost entirely a CRJ network except for some Embraers as well. Wow. Because they do all the feeder routes. They go to all the smaller airports. So they could make for a really interesting schedule. So I might consider going to work for SkyWest, and they have hubs in Salt Lake City, or they're based in Salt Lake City, and then they have hubs in Detroit, Houston, Chicago, and Portland. And Portland, some great scenery for MSFS. O'Hare, some great scenery for MSFS. So definitely worth considering. So I'm thinking about that for the next leg. I haven't decided, I haven't made up my mind, but I'm thinking about that for the next leg to do some SkyWest or something different. But we'll see how it goes. I still like WestJet. It's still I like it. It's treating me well. It's an interesting network, and lots of airports that I have in the P3D world, and I like the 737 as well. It's a fun airplane to fly. So I haven't made up my mind 100% yet, but anyways, let's hop in the flight deck and let's get this party started, because as I said, I am behind where I wanted to be already. So let's power this baby up here. Batteries on, APU on, emergency lights armed, seatbelts are staying off for now because we haven't actually fueled the airplane, and that's probably the first thing we need to do. Let's see here. Now when we landed, I think we had about 12,000 pounds. So I'm going to load that as 12,000 pounds, and then we'll call for the fuel truck to load from there. Alright, and then while we're in here, we can make sure that the IRSs go to nav. Test the overspeed clocker. The stall warning test won't work for about 3 or 4 minutes. Come on. There it is. Alright, flight recorder works as well. And we can get this party started here. So as always, I am using my AviaWorks EFB, and I did manage to get it working with my CRJ in MSFS, and how wonderful that is. It just makes it so much easier when you don't have to look around. The biggest thing about the tablet is not even the looking around, it's the fact that you don't, you could use an input device other than the mouse, and that to me is probably the single biggest thing. The mouse is a great input device in a lot of ways, but using it excessively can become very tiring. Still even launching that, hasn't even gotten that yet. So what we can do while we're waiting for this thing to get all worked up is we can stand, no pushback, as the X, yes, takeoff thrust, we could probably do derated, flap 15, ETOPS no, bleed to on, anti-ice not required, crew change, force return underweight. Yeah, that's all there. And actually, so what we should do is get this guy started.
Okay, let's get this show on the road.
And now, hopefully, my GPSs have logged a position in that time. They did. Excellent. Pop it into the IRS and get this party started.
I'm out for the walk around.
Okay. CYXS to MMPR. Oops. PR, there we go. Destination. And the flight number today is WestJet 2168, I believe. It says it right in the corner there, yeah, 2168. This is definitely not a totally mainline flight because it's going from a northern destination down to Puerto Vallarta. This would be like a once a week kind of route just to pick up some of this northern connection stuff here. It's not like this is the main hub or anything. It's just a small little airport flying down to the Caribbean. But all right, so we can do departure, and let's start with the weather. All right, so we got winds 210 at 7. I think we'll do departure off of 15 in that case. And refueling truck is here. So let's just check here. Where's my flight plan? Flight plan, block fuel 35.4. So let's just round it up to 36,000. It's gonna take them a while to load that. Yeah, so we did departure. There is no SID. Yeah, we did 15. Okay. Yeah, sorry, I got distracted there. So we do have that in there, the departure runway, and then it's not a particularly long, complicated route, so I'm just going to type it in. I'm not going to bother to load it from the ACARS system. Kelowna NDB, that's the one. And then onset FFU, FFU2. FFU, PXR TUS, which I believe is Tucson. PXR TUS. Next page, Jet 92 to Villa. Jet 92 to Villa. Where's my Jet 92? Jet 92. There we go. To Villa. And then direct CUL. Oops. Wrong button. There you go. Culican, that sounds about right. And judging by the coordinates, that should be along our route. Then UJ7 to MJT. J7 to, sorry, MZT. MZT. And then Jet 141 to PVR. And direct. Jet 141. PVR. And then direct. Can I just do that? Will that finish it out? No, that will not finish it out. Now I probably screwed it up. Nope, that's okay. Alright, anywho, so that's it. That's the whole route in there. I'm going to go ahead and activate that and execute that. And we are going to have to set up a star or some kind of an arrival when we get down there. That's fine. We'll set that up once we're en route here. So we can go ahead and go to the Perfinit page here. Again, pulling up my SimBrief flight plan. ZFW is estimated at 117.9. Reserve fuel today estimated to be 20, that's 342. Cost index 37. And we'll probably bump that up as we go, just to shorten this flight a little bit. 350 is the altitude, at least initially. We will do a climb to 370 at some point. Cruise wind, 263 at 52. And, let's see here. I think that's it. So we can execute that performance N1 limit. I'm going to do a derated takeoff, takeoff 1, climb 1. And we're going to try to do it from 35 degrees. See if it'll give us some numbers that work. It's going to be done as a flap 15 takeoff. Sub in CFG, and it looks like we've got workable numbers, so that works. Alright, there we go, and our FMS setup is complete, and we can move on to the rest of the airplane.
Hi, the security and safety checks are all done. Are we good to start boarding?
Go for it.
Okay.
Alright, so now he's going to finish fueling. They're going to call up the baggage trains as well. Everybody's going to take care of everything they need to do here. And we are going to go ahead and go through our panels here. Now we can test the stall warning system, because it's been at least 4 minutes since the plane was powered up. And it needs about 4 minutes for the system to boot. I believe he's going to get the odd-amp ROM, but we'll put it on anyways. Everything's normal auto, normal auto. All the fuel valves are closed right now. Fuel pumps are all off right now. That's fine. We'll get them in a few minutes here. Electrical, got the ground power on.
Everything looks good.
He's back, so he's going to do everything now. We don't need any of the interior lighting. Fuel is still going, so we don't need the seat belts yet. And ice protection, we got the windshield heating. Probes are still off. Anti-ice is off. Hydraulics are all set. Doors, we got a bunch of doors open, that's fine. And let's see here, temperature and everything is 12 o'clock. Recirc fans are on, or auto anyways. Isolation valves open. Packs we can put to auto at this point. Bleed valves are all on. We can set the altitude ourselves. It's about sea level 350. It looks good. And now the non-stop switch flipping that you can hear in the background as this guy switches every switch in the place to make sure everything's on. All the lights are all working here. That's a weird perspective, I know. And I just realized I just gotta fix one thing here, so give me one moment. There you go, that's better. Fixed my track IR, I realized it was not quite where it should be. Alright, and yeah, we don't need to test the lights anymore. You can stop that. Stop that. Thank you. Alright, we're going to put the brakes on RTO, and one's auto, speed ref's auto. Fuel flow we can reset. All the panels are set to the DUs are all set to normal. Make sure our parking brake is on, our flaps are up. Just check thrust levers there. Spoilers are good. Everything is normal. Alright, let's set up our comm radio. So as always, we are online on the VATSIM network, so we do need to make sure we are able to tune the radios. And we are listening to Unicom at the time. For the time being here anyways. Got a 2000 on the transponder code. Test the trims. And I believe that's it. We're just about ready for the briefing. So let's just get the charts up here while he's finishing the rest of his procedures. So let's just use the airports from the FMS. Thank you. CYXS, and I don't believe we have a SID. Oh, we do have a SID. Prince George 5 departure, which is probably just like runway heading. All runways, runway heading. So 153. 15 heading 153 maintained. Let's say 8,000. 8,000. Okay, so heading 153 8,000. The flight director's all on here, and speed 144. Alright, as well we need to set the altimeter here, which is 3001. There is a disconnect between VATSIM and ActiveSky. What's going on here, ActiveSky? Just gonna have a little look-see here. I don't think it has the METAR for Prince. No, it doesn't seem to have a METAR for Prince George, so that's why it's not quite showing up correctly here. Well, we're going to go with the 3001. Prince George has a METAR, so I don't know why ActiveSky doesn't have it. But anyways. And then I think we're just about ready to go. Pre-flight checklist.
Let me finish my pre-flight procedure first.
Alright, well I can't see your hands because you're invisible, buddy, so I don't know if you're done or not. Honest to God. Now he's getting all that on there at least. I think the fuel truck is gone. The fuel truck, yeah, the guy came and gave us the receipt. He's long gone. Now you ready? Pre-flight checklist.
Pre-flight checklist. Oxygen.
Tested 100%.
Tested 100%. Navigation transfer and display switches. Normal, auto. Window heat, on. Pressurization mode selector, auto. Flight instruments.
Heading 100. Altimeter 3001.
Checked. Parking brake.
Set. Set. Set and checked. Park. Set.
Engine start levers.
Cut off.
Pre-flight checklist complete.
Are you ready for the takeoff briefing? Are you ready for the departure briefing?
Go for it.
Okay, so emergencies as previously briefed on the earlier leg, which we did 2 weeks ago, but yeah, the engine failure procedure here in Prince George is just going to be to climb out straight ahead. Let's see here. So, taxi chart here in 10-9, high terrain, reduced operational length of runway 24, 924 and 33 right-hand circuits, tall vehicles crossing 110 feet north of runway 15. Okay, so we are here at the terminal to get to runway 15. What we'll do, I think, is we'll go out Charlie, and then backtrack 19 and backtrack 15 to get the full length. We probably don't even need the full length. That's probably about, we'll say if that's 8,000 feet remaining, which is probably even. So doesn't even change the speed, so yeah. So we can do it from the intersection of runway 19. So we'll do 15 from the intersection of 19, and the SID will be, the only hotspots are obviously backtracking on the active runway and crossing several runways. Nope, wrong chart. Alright, Prince George 5 departure, 10-3, 5th of February of 2021, 100 miles safe, 12,800 high terrain east of the airport. Contact Vancouver Center after passing 3,200. So 15 again. Climb heading 153, maintain 8,000 or as assigned. It's just a straight up vector SID heading 153, 8,000, and there is some high terrain kind of to the east and the southeast, so we will have to eventually kind of break off to the right until we're sure we have cleared all that terrain. MSA of the sector we're departing in is 7,600. Unfortunately, we don't have any DATC online, so we're just going to do it ourselves. And that's about it. Any questions? Any questions?
No questions.
Alright, I think that's about it. I'm just trying to think here now. Just check NOTAMs as well. So let's just have a quick little look-see here. NOTAMs, I don't expect too much from Prince George, just firefighting. 33 center line light flickering, 1,000 feet south of Delta. Does that even really need a NOTAM, a light that flickers? You know it's a small airport when that's the NOTAM. Alright, but that's that. We got everybody taken care of, so let's go ahead and start that APU. Got the fuel pumps already on, the fuel truck's gone. So the fuel truck's gone, which means, yeah, you get the seatbelt sign on as well. Great. Get that APU running. Full oil pressure, and just waiting to see the EGT start to rise on that. There it is. Light off on the APU. I realize that we are not going to be able to do a taxi out from here. I think we are going to get pushed back, so I believe I already had this for gate pushback. No, not gate. Stand pushback. There we go, stand pushback. That's what I'm looking for. Alright, I think we're just about ready here. Flight controls and electrical systems are in yellow. Alright, so we got the APU gen on. We could definitely do that. We could do this. Cockpit to ground. Cockpit to ground. Cockpit to ground. Flight deck to ground. Cockpit to ground.
Go ahead.
Please disconnect external power.
Roger. Disconnecting the GPU.
This does not look like MSFS. I don't know what you're talking about. I got the special pre-production preview of the 737 in MSFS. No, it's not MSFS because
Load sheet for you.
I cannot fly my WestJet 737 in MSFS yet. It will be one day, but not yet. Alright, in the meantime, he's got the load sheet. He's going to adjust the weight in there.
GPU is disconnected.
Wow, that took you a long time. Thanks, buddy. And we're just about ready to go here. Just waiting for the last few passengers to board.
Watch out for your leg, please.
Thanks, buddy. I don't think we probably needed a bus for the guys to walk from this door over there, but... Trying to find some nice
Verify takeoff.
external views that include the... Oh, that's nice. You can really see the detail level on the GSX models here. Like, look at the detail level down here, just on like the control panel for the stairs. All the individual switches. They really did put a lot of effort into this. Verified.
Check.
Put a lot of effort into that. All their models are generally very nice. GSX's, or FS Dream Team has done an excellent job with GSX, and I can't wait to see what they do bringing GSX into MSFS as well. With some of the abilities that they have with the decaling in MSFS, it's going to be even more precise, even more crisp, and I think it's going to look really good when they get it done. Are we done boarding yet? Like, we only had 88 people. How long does it take to board 88 people? I can hear the sound of people still boarding. Waiting for your action. Open left entry aft. Oh, geez, they didn't even start boarding yet. That's not going to take them very long, but do you really need, like, the aft door? Like, honestly, as long as one stair and one door is open. So now, officially, he's actually starting boarding. Why would you not just board through the front stairs? Honest to God. 88 people should only take about 4 or 5 minutes to board anyways, the GSX. I think I've got it set to a fairly quick boarding here. Timings. Minimum time, 15 seconds. Time per passenger, 2 seconds. Which means that even 100 passengers would only take 3 minutes, 20 seconds. And I love the way this is pre-calculated. I think that's very... I think that's great because it really gives you a sense of how long would this actually take to do. So yeah, it's going to take about 2.5, no more than 3 minutes to board these passengers. So we're going to taxi out here, Charlie. We're going to go all the way down 19, and then from 19 we're going to depart 15, off towards sunny Puerto Vallarta. It's not terrible here. It's 7 degrees in... Oh, you know what? I typed in the wrong METAR. That's why my altimeter setting was off. It was 2986. And here I was blaming ActiveSky for being off. But I had typed in the wrong METAR. Oh, Lord. Alright, 55 out of 88 boarded. Almost there. It's actually -1, so it's kind of chilly here, like, honestly, and it's nice to kind of think about the idea of just going on vacation, just going to a tropical resort and just lying on a beach for a week. What a great thought, and it's going to happen soon again. It really is. We're getting to that point now. We're kind of in the darkness before the dawn right now. But very soon, tropical vacations are going to be where it's at anyways. One of those days, yeah. Hopefully that's the worst thing that happens all flight, is I forget that I didn't notice that it was yelling at me to open that stupid door. The thing is, the GSX is always bothering you to do something with that little beep that I just tune it out. It's always like, oh, open the doors for catering, or put in the fuel amount, and it just, I've learned to tune it out, and it's amazing how you do that. I heard it. I know I heard it like 100 times, but I just didn't even think too much about it. Alright. There is the last of the passengers boarded. Cargo was, or the bags were already
Hey guys,
boarded.
all passengers are on board. Are we clear to close?
Thank you, it will be a short taxi. Thank you.
Thanks. Let me know if you need anything.
And the bus is long gone. Okay, you guys can take the stairs away. Doors should be closing. There we go, doors are closed. Prepare for pushback and departure. And do I actually need to go? Yeah, I need to be tailed to the right. Before start, checklist down to the line.
Before start checklist to the line. Fuel 36.0 thousand pounds. Pumps on. Passenger signs on. Windows.
Locked.
Locked. MCP.
Speed 144, heading 153. Altitude 8,000. Altitude 8,000.
Checked. Takeoff speeds.
V1 141, VR 142. V2 144.
Checked. CDU pre-flight.
Complete.
Completed. Rudder and aileron trim.
Set and checked. This should be up. Set and checked.
Taxi and takeoff briefing.
Complete.
Before start checklist completed to the line.
Okay. GSX seems to be stuck because the stairs are gone, but it's just still waiting for the stairs. So we're going to do a reset here. Reset, everybody. Here comes the tug. There are no icing conditions. It's an overcast sky, but it's -1. But it's like, just because it's below 0 doesn't mean icing conditions. If there's no precipitation falling, It's not foggy. It's not icing conditions. Before start checklist below the line.
Flight deck door closed and locked. Anti-collision light on. Before start checklist complete.
Check.
Hello, Captain. We're ready for pushback.
Oops.
Locking gear.
Yeah. We're getting there. I was too eager. I do like that there is some interior modeling going on here, though. If you get close to these people, they're just like two-dimensional, like cardboard cutouts type people. But just like as you're kind of scrolling across, you become aware that there's people in there. It's not bad. And having them be two-dimensional obviously is a lot easier on the frame rate than if they were fully three-dimensional. It's nice because you just catch a glimpse of people as you're looking around the airport. It's not perfect, but it's a sacrifice that had to be made
Commencing push.
in the name of decent performance. Start sequence is 1 then 2.
Check.
Start engine 1.
Starting 1.
We now request your full attention as the flight attendants demonstrate the safety features of this aircraft. When the seatbelt sign illuminates, you must fasten your seatbelt. Insert the flat metal clip to the buckle and pull the
There
lever
it goes.
strap
And
to
2's accelerating.
your seatbelt, lift the upper portion of the buckle. We suggest that you keep your seatbelt fastened throughout the flight as we may experience turbulence. There are several emergency exits on this aircraft, 2 forward, 2 aft, and 2 over each wing. Please take a moment to locate the exit nearest you.
There's 25%.
Exit may be behind you. If we need to evacuate the aircraft,
Alright, so valves are opening. Valves are open. Fuel flow is indicated, and we have light off. There it goes.
Oxygen and air pressures are always being monitored. In the event of a decompression, an oxygen mask will automatically appear in front of you. To start the flow of oxygen, pull the mask towards you. Place it firmly over your nose and mouth and secure the elastic band behind your head and breathe normally. Although the bag does not inflate, oxygen flows to the mask. If you're traveling with a child or someone who requires assistance, secure your mask on first and then assist that other person.
Alright.
Keep your mask on until it is uniformed.
Starter cutout.
Starting cutout, thank you. Oil pressure stabilized. Engine vibrations are pretty low.
Lean forward with your hands on top of your
EGT is falling. I'd say we're pretty good.
Ensure your feet
Start
are
engine
flat
2.
on the floor. A life vest is located in a pouch
Start
located
engine 2.
between the armrests.
Starting 2.
Instructed to do so, open the plastic pouch and remove the vest. Flip it over your head. Press the straps around your waist and adjust to the front. To
Okay,
inflate
so
the
that's
vest,
accelerating.
firmly
Because we got it pretty much one good start anyways, I'm going to go ahead and dismiss these guys because we got a long flight ahead of us. Let's get this show on the road, buddy.
whistle and lights to attract
It's going to take you
attention.
3 minutes just to disconnect the tug.
Your bottom cushion can be used as a flotation device. Pull the cushion from the seat, flip your arms to the straps, and hug the cushion to your chest. We remind you that this is a
Alright, there's
non-smoking
26%.
flight.
Sorry, I was not looking for a second there.
Located in the lavatory to prevent involved.
Unlocking gear.
Alright, we got fuel flow. Here comes EGT light off.
We strongly suggest you read it before takeoff.
Fuel flow's falling.
Please don't hesitate to ask one of our crew members.
As the airplane accelerates, or the engine accelerates. Pressure slowly building. One thing I find is unrealistic about PMDG, I think, is that the oil temperature increases way too fast. It generally takes a couple minutes for oil pressure or oil temperature to actually increase in a running engine.
Left is clear. Right is clear.
So I feel like this happens unrealistically fast. Like I started the engine 2 minutes ago and it's already at 68 degrees. It would probably be about 10 degrees by now. It would be getting up there, but it's not usually there yet. Anywho. Flaps 15.
Flaps 15.
Alright, and a flight control check. Alright, there they go. Before taxi checklist.
Before taxi checklist. Generators. On. Probe heat. On. Anti-ice. Off. Isolation valve. Auto. Engine start switches. Continuous. Recall. Checked. Auto brake. RTO. Engine start levers.
Idle detent.
Flight controls.
Checked.
Dispatch clearance.
Checked.
Checked. Before taxi checklist complete.
Clear on the left.
Clear right.
Taxi light on. Set taxi light to on.
Taxi light on.
Alright, away we go, and I'm just going to really quickly check my pilot's life and make sure... Oh, it did not auto start, so let's start it here. What do you mean it's not? There we go. Probably because we were moving. Okay, so now it started. Good, perfect. And that's why I always check those systems and make sure they are tracking your flights correctly. Prince George traffic. WestJet 2168 is at the terminal. We'll be backtracking runway 19 to depart runway 15, crossing runway 24. Clear on the left.
Clear right.
Set strobes to on.
Strobes coming on.
Not doing a good job of taxiing in the middle, am I? At least the wheels are on the pavement, that's the main thing. Alright, it's a pretty quiet airport this morning. This is an interesting airport because it's a fairly remote airport, but it's also like a regional hub. There's a lot of other smaller communities all around Prince George that that are linked by small air services, often provided by like Beach 1900s and such. So it's a very it's a crucial. Is that something running across the runway there? It's a bear running across the runway. Oh, I love it. It's a crucial kind of link in the local air transportation network. That is hilarious. They actually programmed a bear running around on the runway. Alright, that may be a new one, certainly for the P3D world. Hello, Mr. Bear. Before takeoff checklist.
Before takeoff checklist. Flaps.
Flaps 15, green light.
Stabilizer trim.
Set and checked.
Before takeoff checklist complete.
It's 5.13 we're looking for on there, and I would say that that is about 5.13. That's hilarious, a bear running around on the runway. I love it. That's right up there with the modders who immediately after the ship crashed into the side of the Suez Canal decided to put it in Microsoft Flight Simulator. It's like, oh yeah, we could do that. We can add a ship right there on the Suez Canal, no problem. A little tease of the real world situations. But yeah, this is a very important kind of regional air link, and that's why you can do like a tropical destination, because you'll get people from many regional communities that will fly into this airport, and normally they'd have to connect down to Vancouver to go to a tropical destination, but to offer direct flight, from these smaller cities, you know, once a week, it'd be a very popular service because it's a lot easier if you don't have to transfer planes in Vancouver or anywhere else. So they were pretty much ready to go here. This is 15 here, so before takeoff procedure.
Check.
Prince George traffic, WestJet 2168, taking position runway 15 for departure.
Ready to go.
Very good. Now this is one of the worst things for pilots to have to do, is these kind of line up on a runway where it's not like a 90-degree angle, where it's an oblique angle. Because then it's very hard to kind of judge where to start the turn. You get very good at doing it from like a 90-degree angle because most taxiways tend to enter a runway at 9 degrees, but this is one of the most challenging things to do, is to figure out how to do it on an oblique angle like that. Although I have to say, that worked out pretty well. Just gonna make myself comfortable here. Auto throttle is armed. Let's get 70%. Stable. Set takeoff thrust.
Check. Thrust set. knots.
Checked.
V1. Rotate. Positive rate.
Gear up. She's a heavy beast today with all that fuel. Set speed 220. Select level change.
Level change. Speed 220. Set.
Flaps 5.
Flaps 5.
Flaps 1.
Flaps 1.
Set speed 230.
Speed 230. Set.
Flaps up.
Flaps up.
Alright, so we're going to keep climbing until we get to 7,600, because that was our MSA, and then we'll put the autopilot on and get direct going on here. In the meantime, since we're looking to climb, let's get keep the speed back a little bit here. After takeoff checklist. After takeoff checklist.
After takeoff checklist. Engine bleeds. On. Packs. Auto. Landing gear. Up and off. Flaps. Up. No lights. After takeoff checklist complete.
Checked. Farewell, British Columbia.
1000 level.
Come on, Mexico. Set
Checked.
flight level 350.
Cabin crew.
Go for it.
Okay.
Alright, we're going to go ahead and get Command A on here. And we're going to go ahead and get the icing on because
Flight
it's...
level. 350. Set.
And last but not least, we're going to get ourselves established en route at this point. So direct to Kelowna.
Checked.
Nope. Okay. The turbulence is not helping me at all here. There we go. Now we can do LNAV. We can also do VNAV. And let it pick its optimal speed here. 250 for another couple of seconds, and then it's going to accelerate to, I think, 304. Alright, and there we go, guys. We're underway again for another leg of a pilot's life. This guy's not going to do much for the next couple of hours because it's a long way. Alright, so we finally got airborne, and let's, of course, see the bottom line here. MMPR 2007. A little under 5 hours from now. That's a long one. Alright, let's get terrain up here, too, so we know what's going on outside, because there's, frankly, is a lot of terrain out here. Come on, terrain. Show me terrain, thank you. Zoom this out a little bit here. Maybe top a climb before we ever get to Kelowna. There's Kelowna. Alright, so there is some terrain up to 12,800 here along our route. Let's zoom in a little more. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Let's bring that up. There we go. So we should be level in about 80 to 100 miles. There we go, passing through the top now. We'll get the anti-ice off in a minute, and we'll get some power back on this airplane.
Okay to release the cabin?
Go for it. No. Actually, no. No.
Okay.
We're just going to wait till we get through these cloud decks here. They don't have to pee that badly, I hope. The fact that you can see the sun usually means you're very close to the top of the cloud deck anyway, so I thought we were out of it, and then we sailed back into it, so we'll be back out of it again in a minute here. There we go. We are on our way. We got 4 hours to kill. And not a whole lot to talk about, but I do have at least one bit of intriguing news that I want to talk about when we get to our top of climb here. Make sure everybody's happy. We still got our engine anti-ice on. Everything else looks pretty normal. Yeah, it's pressurizing. It's all looking good. Hopefully we'll break out of this cloud deck here shortly. And so how much fuel are we going to have? 8.9. Now, if we go and change up our cost index to like 75. So let's bring up the prog page on this side so we can kind of comparatively do it. So 2007, 8.9. If I bring it up to 75, 8.7, 2001, that saved 6 minutes. And now what if we do like 150? 7.5, that saved us like another 4 minutes. Okay. What if we do 300? Behind schedule. The company told us we can bump it up and make up some time. Now we're getting to that point of diminishing returns where it really is, we're going almost at top speed as it is, so we're not going to necessarily be able to do a lot better. There we go. But we are on top. It's a bit of a cloudy day, but it's nice, so let's go ahead and get the seatbelts off. And away we go. Pity it's a bit of a cloudy day out here. It was a beautiful day when we flew up to Prince George there. It was an absolutely beautiful day. Got a great view of the mountains pretty much the whole way there. And for those of you that didn't tune into my live stream, my latest live stream last week, or was it earlier this week, I guess, when we did Vancouver to Kelowna, and my gosh, we did it in Microsoft Flight Simulator. The scenery is just absolutely phenomenal. There's some areas of the world, but even the most boring areas of the world become intriguing in Microsoft Flight Simulator just because of the level of detail that's available there. Set standard. Standard set. Close enough. Yeah, even the most boring, kind of flat prairie areas become intriguing because you can look around the towns and you can see various things. You can see schools and baseball diamonds and business districts, and just it becomes interesting. It's not just impressive physical scenery, which becomes interesting when you've got the level of detail available in Microsoft Flight Simulator. But even the flattest terrain becomes kind of a little more interesting. It's one of the great things about flying in the real world is just looking down and seeing the whole world spread out in front of you. Very few secrets there. People who keep stuff hidden in their backyards, it's not secret to people flying over them. So you see all sorts of interesting stuff, good and bad, just looking around at people's backyards. So I really enjoy flying. It just is an interesting way to see the world. As I said, not much is hidden, whether it be the physical, natural world or the man-made world. But I do have to say that doing that flight was at Microsoft Flight Simulator was great. The Aerosoft CRJ did it mostly pretty well. The only flaw it seemed to have seemed to have two flaws with that leg when I did it, and one was that the direct I did to the first fix was not very accurate, and then all of a sudden, once it got past that direct fix, it suddenly was able to track the rest of the flight plan very well, including flying a RNAV approach with a curved radius to fix leg, which was great. It flew it perfectly. The other thing was that the VNAV for some reason did not start up properly, and it didn't provide me a good guidance on the way down, so I really had to just literally step down, and that is problematic in Kelowna, because Kelowna is caught in one of these mountain valleys in BC, and it's a horrendous step down approach. If you can fly it with an FMS that's got a fully supported VNAV, it's easy, because then it meets all the restrictions. But if you don't have that proper VNAV, if you've just got the CRJs, no real VNAV, just sort of guidance, but it's not really there, and it won't stop you from descending below a minimum altitude. You've got to set each minimum altitude as you go, which in a single pilot operation especially is tedious. Dialing it down like in 1,000-foot intervals from 10,000 all the way down to like 2,000 was just, it quickly wore on me. It was tons of fun, but boy, tons of work too. Fortunately, it was a beautiful day that day. It was VMC, you could see everything, so it wasn't as nerve-wracking. If you were doing that IMC and dialing everything in and watching all the altitudes and making sure you weren't busting an altitude because of the terrain out there, that would be very stressful. At least it was visual. Once it got to the point where I couldn't keep up with the dialing in the altitudes anymore, and we were going to end up being way too high, then just disconnect and hand fly. You could see out the window, you could see everything that's happening in front of you. It was fine. We could see the airport. We just hand flew the last 10 miles or so of the approach. But it's a really great approach. It's a really good test of an airplane's ability, of the ability of an FMS to track an approach. If it could track that approach, there's not a whole lot it can't do. So ILSs are fairly straightforward. They're just straight. Constant localizer heading, constant descent rate. It's fairly steady. It's the curved RNAV approaches through the mountain valleys. Those are the intriguing ones that if you can fly those, you can do just about anything. So I really enjoyed that. This, by comparison, seems rather tame now, because it was also the opposite in that it was a very short flight. It was 40 minutes, I think, from start to finish. I think we were in cruise for like 4 minutes before I realized we'd already pretty much missed our top of descent and had to bomb out of the sky. This will be quite the opposite. We have a long way to go before we're at Puerto Vallarta. And, yeah. So this is going to be a stream filled with breaks today, because it's so far. It's too far to do it in one slog without getting up for at least a little while. We will not be in Puerto Vallarta for 4.5 hours. And of course, right now we don't have any ATC online, I don't believe, but we're going to hope for it. Let me just turn around and check my other computer that actually has my VATSIM dialed up. Because if I can, I'll displace things from this computer now onto the other computer, because it's too much sometimes for this computer. It's not a bad processor, but it can only do so much, and there is a limit to what it can do. As of right now, there is no ATC on our entire route. There's a hell of a lot of airplanes out there, though, today. A hell of a lot of airplanes, but not much ATC along our route. 1,400 people connected to the VATSIM network already. And I think it depends on where you are in the world, but it is holiday for a lot of people today too. So I would expect to have a lot of people online, a lot of people flying. Unfortunately, still living in the age of COVID, still for the most part locked down and not allowed to leave your house for any reason. So celebrating with family outside of the people you live with is not going to probably happen. It's just the way it is. But you can come online and enjoy flying the beautiful airplanes, flying in the VATSIM network, get some camaraderie, enjoy the spirit out there. As far as other streams, I am planning to do at least one ATC stream this weekend. Time still TBA. I have to figure out what's going to work best for me. So I haven't figured out when's going to be the best time for me to be online, but sometime this weekend I will do an ATC stream on my YouTube channel as well. I do enjoy doing those ATC streams. the funny thing is, like, the first hour often ends up being very boring. It's pretty predictable. The first hour of my ATC streams is pretty boring because most of the time I step in and there's a couple of airplanes online and not much happening. And then it's usually about an hour to an hour and a half in where all of a sudden pilots start logging in like crazy. Enough people have seen you there and start to log in and plan a flight around the fact that you're there. And usually around the time I plan to depart is roughly the time it gets busiest. Alright, getting there. Still got to climb to 350, still got another 8-10 minutes here. Will it tell me how long? Climb. To flight level 350, 1535, so 7 minutes, 58 miles to get to 350. There you go. Got a pretty good plan in there. I guess the other thing we can also do is this PMDG. I did use SimBrief, so I can load up some winds and try to get an even more realistic arrival time into Puerto Vallarta. Wind request is gone. Give it 30 seconds for the ACAR system to calculate it and send it all back. Do. There it is. Loaded in there. Load. Cruise wind uplink loading. And there we go. Now we can execute. And 1954, 7.6. So that actually chopped another 2 or 3 minutes off of there. Don't know if that's going to be realistic per se, but it did something anyways. And we can also, while we're doing cruise winds, we should always remember to get descent winds as well. Descent winds are not so critical for the performance factor as they are for just the descent planning. You know, the descent is generally not a huge part of the flight, especially in a longer flight like this, but it's more just for planning an accurate top of descent point so that you can descend as close to idle as possible without having to use speed brakes. Descent for it. There it is. Load. Thinking about it. There it is. And execute that. And again, it doesn't really make a difference over here, but what it does is just it determines headwind, tailwind components and tries to pick the ideal top of descent point that will let you descend at as close to idle thrust as possible without having to waste energy on the speed brakes the whole way down. So now we've got that in there. That's chopped a couple of minutes off. 1953 Zulu. The other thing I'm also a little bit concerned about is just how the arrival is going to work into Puerto Vallarta. I know there's a couple of stars, so I think what we'll do is we'll set this up because the flight plan did not really have anything useful in there. So let's chart clip this already here. Oh, right, there's like 1,000. Actually, no, that's the departures. The arrivals are fairly straightforward. So, one echo. We'll just grab both of them. It's a single runway airport, so it should be fairly easy to estimate which way we're going to be landing when we get there. 170 at 3, of course, is splitting the difference pretty much. Let's see here. Edit clip. Approaches, it's 0422. So with 170, yeah, 22 would work. Alright, so let's plan on that. So, I think one of these stars is mostly for one end and one of the stars is for the other end. So, for 22, yes, this would be the way to go. And unfortunately, the way this flight is planned is not very smart because it takes us directly to the Puerto Vallarta, the Vallarta VOR. Can do direct PVR, which is not very useful. Can do, I don't think, is on any of our routes here. What we can do is just pull up the flight plan and see here on the flight plan. Can do Oleno Obrug. Oh no, wait, Obrug is there. We do have an Obrug transition. Obrug. Oh, beautiful. So we can do that. We can do the Obrug 1 Bravo arrival. So let's set that up. I know we're way early, but I just want to make sure that our top of descent point is well planned here. So we're going to plan on an RNAV to runway 22. And the transition is going to be via Muvba. And it's the Obrug 1 Bravo. So let's go into the legs page here. So we're going to take this Obrug and pull it up here. And then we're going to execute that, and that'll be nice. Okay. So now we got Obrug, and then we're going straight into the approach from there. Haha. That should make it a little bit better. That also didn't change our time too much, but now it's made our plan very logical. And we can always check it as well by going into plan mode here. And you can see here, so we come in Obrug PR-CYVR-CYXS Wait, deceleration, Muvba, and then PR-407, and we can start that RNAV runway 22. So with no discontinuities, oh, that looks much better. Now we're going to have a fantastic plan there. What we're going to do, we can go back into map mode now, but that did what we need to do. Very nice. Okay. And we're going 335. We're almost to 350, and then we had a step climb in here as well. I'm just going to look at my flight plan here. Flight plan, step climb at FFU. So down here at about 500, 600 miles. We're going to have FFU. Fox uniform is going to be, after that we're going to do our climb to 370, where we'll sit for the remainder of the flight. Once we burn off a little bit of our gas here. Alright, but we are getting there. We are getting to our cruise altitude anyways. At about 1,000 to go here.
1011.
She's struggling with that last 1,000 feet too. Pushing the limits of what it's capable of right now. So we do Mach decimal 8.1. Looks like the clouds are breaking up a little bit here as we head southbound. And hopefully we'll get a little bit of VATSIM ATC as we go here too. Right now it's early in the day yet. And I guess not a lot of people are online. At least not a lot of controllers are online. As I said, it's early in the day. It's a holiday though, at least for a lot of people anyway, so I would have expected to see a few people today, but and it is interesting because it is a religious holiday. It's a Catholic holiday, so it's something that I wouldn't expect everyone to be celebrating. But it's funny that it has, especially in a lot of North American culture anyways, it's been accepted as just a given holiday because unfortunately North American culture is still very much dominated by the Catholic religion, the Christian religions. And I would be okay with it not being a holiday if we could find a better secular holiday to celebrate instead. Because there's a lot of other religions that have different holidays of their own that they do not get days off designated as, you know, national or state holidays or anything like that, or provincial holidays. So I have mixed feelings about it. To me, just because it's always been that way, as someone who was born and raised in North America, I just accepted it. But, the more I think about it, the more it is kind of biased. But even Christmas is a religious holiday at the end of the day, but it's, at the same time, it's become extremely secular. Even people who are not Christian celebrate it just as a day of giving, a day of thinking about other people, I hope anyways. Certainly, Lord knows the corporations have gotten on board with it full tilt. So, anywho. If you don't want to alienate people in the flight deck, don't talk about religion too much, because it's a subject that makes people very people get very upset about, not even upset, what's the word I'm trying to look for, but people are very religious about their religion. Seems like a self-serving statement, but they take it very seriously anyway, so yeah, it's a topic you have to tread lightly around in the flight deck. Anyways, yeah, so here we are in cruise. Interesting bit of news that happened this week. Surprised me a little bit, and I'm not 100% sure how I feel about it yet, but nevertheless, interesting bit of news that transpired this week, and that is the announcement that SimBrief, which, as you guys all know, is my favorite flight planning software and is one of my favorite flight simulation sites on the internet because of what they choose to offer for free, just as a gift to the community. But yeah, what they choose to offer for free, and then so this week it was announced that SimBrief was actually purchased by Navigraph, which, again, I'm not sure 100% how I feel about this. I mean, I think it's going to be a good thing for the community in the long run. Navigraph runs a great service. I feel like maybe their pricing might be a little bit high for what they offer, but at the same time I know that they're using commercial data. I'm pretty sure they have to pay Jeppesen for the data that they then turn around, translate, and redistribute to simmers everywhere. So, you know, they have to obviously offset that cost, as well as their other infrastructure costs. And certainly one thing I'll say for Navigraph is that their service is definitely, it definitely does its job well. They're very quick to react to new aircraft that come on the market and make sure that their data can be available to integrate into new aircraft on the market. They're very their data is always prompt on the day that new data becomes available. It's always out there some point early in the day, ready for the updates. You know, I've never seen too many data problems with Navigraph. Their system is very well run, very smooth, very seamless, to the point where you barely even notice it. Their updater is great. You just sort of set it going and just walk away, and it updates everything for you very quickly and painlessly while you're away from the while you're away from the computer. It just does the job for you, which is great. So I think Navigraph is a great service. So first of all, and I think that they're a good company. They charge a fair bit for their service, but they do provide excellent service. They support their product. They do it in a timely fashion and everything, which is what you want for SimBrief as well. SimBrief is an excellent product, and basically has been created by one man. I believe Derek Myers is his name, and he basically created the system. I feel like he is a dispatcher. I'm not sure if that's 100% accurate, but I think he is a dispatcher for an airline because he seems to have a very intimate knowledge of how the Lido system works and how dispatching at the airline level works. So between his aviation experience and his programming capabilities, he's created a website that he offers to the community for free. That is absolutely fantastic as a resource. It generates incredibly realistic, accurate, precise flight plans with very realistic flight packages, all the information you could possibly need. And you guys that have watched my stream before know this. I use SimBrief all the time. All the information you need. Like, this looks exactly like a flight plan you would get handed in the real world. All, in this case, how many pages? 44 pages of it. And that's exactly what you would get in the real world. You get tons and tons of pages with more information than you know what to do with, just in case you need some of that information out there. So the way he's integrated all these different aspects together, he's got the NOTAM system, the weather, METARs and TAFs are imported, the route generation, performance data, all that stuff. It's extremely well done, and considering that it's been basically more or less the work of one man over a period of years, and it's slowly improved over time and more features have been added, but nevertheless, one person's work it's fantastic. So I think it's going to be a very good thing to have it be purchased by Navigraph. The biggest reason is that it will, I think, ensure the long-term continuity of the website. And it's great when one person's so dedicated to their job, to their task, to their project that they can put all this time in and create a wonderful project. And because it's a one-man project, it's also very focused. He knows exactly what he wants to do, what he wants it to look like, kind of the end result. Able to react to what other people want. But when you're one person working on a project, you can very much focus on the project, doing it the way you want. The one downside, of course, of being a one-man project is that if anything ever happens, whether it be you just run out of time because maybe your life situation changes, you have a kid, or you could take a new job, or you move somewhere, and you just lose that ability to work on it. The trouble with one-man projects like this is that then they languish, and that is probably always been in the back of my mind. One of the biggest concerns I've ever had with SimBrief is, what would happen if this one guy who put all this time and effort into this project suddenly one day didn't have the time to put into it anymore? What if he lost his job and he no longer was able to support the project? He's put a lot of his own money into this project, supporting the server costs and everything, and people donate to him and to offset that cost. But I imagine he's probably, with the amount of information, the amount of flight plans being generated, the amount of bandwidth and processor power being used, I'm sure he's probably losing money more than he's making money off this website over the long run. Maybe he's making some money, but I'm sure he's not making much. But what happened if he suddenly lost the ability to do that, to pay the bills anymore for the website? Certainly with Microsoft Flight Simulator being more popular, more and more people probably than ever are using his website, I'm sure, to generate flight plans. What if his ability to pay the bills was suddenly fell behind, and we lost access to that website? So I think the greatest thing about the fact that Navigraph is purchasing this is it adds stability to it in the long run, even if it was, even if Derek was unable to do anything more with the website tomorrow, the website could continue to run. Navigraph would be able to at least continue to run it, provide the service as it is right now, and probably use some of their own tech people, obviously, to help maintain the service. So I think that's one of the greatest things, one of the big plus sides to this transaction. It took me a little bit off guard, but I think in the long run it's going to be a good thing, just because having a company that's bigger, like Navigraph, behind it will add stability to the project, will add the ability for just to make sure that it's maintained in the long run. It's become, to me, it's an indispensable tool. I couldn't imagine trying to do flight simming without it. It's such a fantastic website, churning out realistic flight plans so that you don't even have to think too much about the flight plan. You go and you put in some information, your origin, your destination, the type of airplane, and that's pretty much it. And you can hit generate, and it'll give you fuel burns, it'll give you times, it'll give you all sorts of other stuff that you may or may not need, but it'll give you all the information with very minimal effort on your part. So I do think in the long run it's going to be a good thing. The one thing that makes me feel a little bit weird about it, and again, this is kind of, now it's going to be a little bit interesting. I looked at SimBrief as a charity in a way. It was a volunteer, donation supported and owner supported project. Now, as part of Navigraph, which is as far as I know, is a for-profit company, changes the dynamic a little bit. And I don't necessarily mean that in a bad way. But I would not think twice to donate to a project like SimBrief when it's, a not-for-profit type of project, when it's just simply a community labor of love. And maybe I'm painting it in too much of that, what am I trying to say here? Maybe I'm painting it too much with a heavenly brush. It's not all altruistic, and maybe he was making some money off the ads and donations and whatnot. But at the end of the day, I felt like I could choose what it was worth to me and definitely make that donation on a regular basis. When it becomes part of a for-profit company, I no longer feel the inclination to donate, because I'm worried that my donation will no longer support that website and will just go into the general coffers. And I don't need, you don't need to donate to a for-profit company. But then at the same time, this is going, will SimBrief turn into a bit of an anchor for Navigraph in terms of just costs, in terms of they're keeping this running. People are not donating as much as they used to because it's now a for-profit company. Do we really need to donate to a for-profit company? But then will they turn it into a paid service then to help support and offset the costs. And if they were to do that and set a reasonable price, I think a lot of people would be very willing to pay it. Or perhaps offer like a freemium service where, you know, the basic service is free, but if you want to do certain additional add-ons and certain options may be hidden behind a paywall, I certainly would be more willing to consider that, as long as the basic flight planning, the ability to put some flight plans together does not go away. And the thing is that Navigraph does make money off of SimBrief indirectly just by the fact that they do allow, they do have their updated AirAx available through SimBrief. So even, you know, Navigraph is sort of indirectly making money off SimBrief just by providing some nav data in the background that people can use if they choose to. If they don't, then they get a very outdated set of data, but if they want current data, then they pay a little bit extra for it through the Navigraph subscription model already. So does Navigraph make enough through that subscription model to offset the cost of running SimBrief in the long run? Those are the kind of questions that make me ponder whether this is really truly a good idea. And I think for the most part it's a good thing, because it's going to make sure, it's going to provide insurance that SimBrief exists for a long period of time. And that is a good thing. But I worry about the cost structure now, because I'm not going to feel inclined to donate anymore now that it's being run by Navigraph. I'm assuming they're probably bringing Derek on board now as an employee or contractor or consultant somehow with the project. I believe he's still going to be primarily in charge of the project, but he's now going to get some support from a bigger company. Probably they'll work on paying for the hosting costs and all that, and let him focus on the development and everything else. But yeah, I feel less inclined to donate money at that point. You know, again, knowing that it's a for-profit company that now owns it indirectly. So, and what the Navigraph said was that they really don't tend to change anything at this point in time, and I don't know if that's going to survive always, but other than just to simply add their logo to the homepage as a sponsor. But yeah, I again, I have mixed emotions about it. I think it's probably going to be a good thing, but I wonder how the cost structure is going to work, because it's been something that's been very nice that we can donate what we feel is appropriate without feeling forced to spend more than we feel is appropriate. And so are they going to offer, is it going to continue to be a free service in perpetuity? Is there going to be some kind of a subscription model? And I would be okay with it if it was reasonably priced, because it is a great service. And I would be okay for paying for that great service, but I think at the same time, having it available as a free service really builds for the community as a whole. So many people who, you know, wouldn't know a good flight plan were able to use SimBrief, try it out, get used to using their flight plans and understand them and see what good quality flight plans they had available to them, and be able to get used to using those good quality flight plans without having to worry about, oh, am I going to get my money's worth out of this subscription? You know, if it was $20 a year, $30 a year, even $40 a year, I probably wouldn't think too much about it. You know, maybe on the order of $5 or less a month would be probably, I think, pretty reasonable for that service. But again, it also depends on how many flight plans you generate too. And maybe they could do that. Maybe there could be a certain limit to the number of free flight plans you could generate per month. You know, you get 10 free flight plans per month or whatever, and then, you know, have different subscription levels based on how many flight plans you generate per month. But I often will generate like 3 or 4 flight plans per flight as I try out different permutations as well. You know, I might try a different alternate. Oh, I don't have enough fuel to do this. Maybe I'll see if I can decrease the cost index. So I'll generate like sometimes 3 or 4 flight plans for a flight while I try to sort of plan it and see what the different conditions and constraints cause to my fuel burn and my time and route and all that. So I wouldn't want to be limited by the number of flight plans I calculate, because but therein lies the biggest thing. That's the biggest cost, is the generation of the flight plans. How many flight plans you generate. Each flight plan that's created takes an X amount of processor time, regardless of whether you use it or not. So I'll leave it up to you guys to decide if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know. And I think it's a good thing in the long run, but I can't say it to a certainty, because I worry about how it's going to be funded going forward, and where Navigraph is going to find the money to fund it. If it's going to be through a subscription model, if it's going to just come out of their general revenues to support this as a free service that's provided us alongside their navigation data services. I don't know. But that was the biggest bit of news, I think, that happened last little while. Wow, there's a lot of you guys out there watching. I didn't even realize that the viewer numbers had gone up so much. So Travis says SimBrief on its own is a great advertising mechanism to get people to use Navigraph. Yes, and that's why I think that they could get away with continuing to offer it as a free service. Yeah, because as he says, if NavBlue picked up SimBrief and was the exclusive way to update the AirAC, that would steal huge market share from Navigraph, and that's absolutely correct. Maybe that's part of what they're doing. Maybe Navigraph is looking to ensure that their product is dominant for a long time. And just by simply making sure that it's the exclusive one available on SimBrief, and even if they continue to offer SimBrief for free, the fact that it's just there on SimBrief and people are using SimBrief and then they're saying, hey, I need the Navigraph data to have up-to-date data, buys them the subscriptions. I hope that's the case, because I think SimBrief's a great service, and I want it to continue to be free because I think it's a great way to bring people, to step people up in the hobby, take people from just like, oh, I just I press the quick start button and I just hit the power levers and I go from the runway in this airplane to like, how can you make your flying more realistic? Here's a good realistic flight plan. So I hope so. I hope in the long run that they are going to keep SimBrief free, because I think it's a great gateway drug in this hobby. It really is. The fantastic flight plans it generates let you really start to plan and act like a realistic crew member. So that was my interesting bit of news anyway. That one sort of, I read that, was it yesterday morning or the Wednesday morning, I think, that it came out, and it really kind of floored me. It was just sort of very out of the blue, and like I said, I am not sure if it's good or bad, but it really kind of floored me. Other than that, I haven't seen too much other news cross our way this week, other than the fact that for those of you flying the CRJ, and I know there's a bunch out there, there is an update out there now. Aerosoft has issued their first update to the CRJ. It's mostly a lot of bug fixes. I think there are some new features, but it was, I think, mostly bug fixes. Let me see if I can find it here. The change list. It should be here. Oop, like that. See if I look here. It's checking for updates, and I think it should list. Oh, it doesn't actually list it here. Ah, silly. Let's see, where else can I go to find it here? Let's see here. They put it. Aerosoft put it in their news. So a lot of it is tweaks and fixes. There were quite a few attempts to fix a lot of the crash of desktops people got. Let's see, exterior lights reworked now for volumetric effect. I haven't even used it yet. I downloaded the update and I haven't even taken it flying yet, so I will have to do that sometime this weekend. Ability to delete constraints on the leg page. Magnetic to true course correction for localizers. Nav to nav transfer should now switch to nav source VOR loc if just one nav is tuned to an ILS. They even added one new livery. What else? Apparently the ground lift dump system now works for an RTO as well, where it didn't before. Improvements on throttle control, spoiler effects. IAS Mach push button is not working on the ground. They turned off the HUD when you're when there's no electrical power, so it doesn't display anything when there's no electrical power. It's a lot of like very simple fixes. There was nothing major, I think, in this one really. A lot of little fixes, animations that have been fixed. Things people have noticed when you let it out in the community. Boy, people really kind of find every last little thing, every last little mistake. Fixed like some crashes caused by 180 degree plus DME arcs. Things like the A missing from HPA and the PFD. And then they added a few simple but useful features. They reworked the colors in the EFB. They added visual mouse click feedback to the EFB, and that was one of the things that I wanted to see as well. You didn't know when you clicked the EFB if anything actually happened, like when you sent data to the sim or when you, copied the takeoff numbers to the sim. There was no kind of acknowledgement on the tablet that you clicked anything. So even like a little click, a tap, something, a little shake of the screen, something that indicated that yes, this click was recognized. You're just sort of clicking and hoping that something happened. So yeah, that was silly, but important. Fixed a bug which could lead to negative passenger weights. Sound volume changes. HGS. Oh, the heads-up guidance system has a brightness knob animation and click spots. Fix some ZFW entries on the EFB. So mostly a lot of little tweaks and fixes, things that people have found that they were able to fix up pretty quickly. Fix COM frequency swap. Fix RAM air open light. Not anything crazy hectic. Although, like I said, new livery. So at least one new livery. Rework the lights a little bit. So there have been some updates. So Aerosoft has been working diligently. It's been, I think, 2 weeks now. 2.5 weeks since this airplane came out, and the forums are alive with lots of people with finding glitches and issues with it. There are some FMS issues, and I hope that over time these will slowly get worked out. I think a lot of them are different people using the FMS in different ways, and it's not that they're wrong ways, it's just different ways than what the development team was used to using them. And again, I think the ones that I found were, a lot of them involved vector SIDs, which are not common in Europe, and I think a lot of the testing team is European-based. Aerosoft is obviously European-based, so they did a lot of their testing, I think, based on Europe. And then in Europe, most of the SIDs are full RNAV SIDs, where, from takeoff, you just simply take off in LNAV mode, and it leads you from one fix to another all the way around without a vector leg, whereas in North America, the vast majority of the SIDs are vector SIDs. They just simply, you take off on this heading, maintain this altitude, and expect a vector to your en route fixes. So I think that's just a little bit of a cultural, for lack of a better word, a cultural difference, that they didn't do very much testing of those, because I found that has been a big issue, is where there's a vector leg, the direct twos do not seem to work very well. Again, I hope that this will become a problem that'll get fixed over time. Because regardless, I'm sure Aerosoft made their money. Aerosoft has paid their bills and paid their staff for at least a year, so with the money they made on that airplane, if not more, I can't even begin to fathom a guess on how many units were sold, but I have to think at least 10,000 units sold in the first week, if not easily twice to 3 times that many. Seeing the size of the community. In terms of the hardcore community, the hardcore community's got to be at least 15 to 20,000 people worldwide, just judging based on the Navigraph survey. And not all of them will necessarily go out and buy the RJ. All of them are on Microsoft Flight Simulator, but enough of them are. And then, of course, you take the more casual people, but maybe they're thinking about getting into this as a more serious hobby, and they would like to see a good airplane. It's hard to put a number on a hobby like this, especially on a worldwide basis. But the other one that really kind of blew me away, if you guys have not seen this website, and I think a lot of you have, but there's a great website for Microsoft Flight Simulator users called flightsim.to, and all it is, it's just a collection of freeware add-ons. Whether it be airplanes, there's a lot of airplanes and liveries, but there's also a lot of freeware scenery people have put up to get put out there. Tons and tons of freeware scenery. Dash 8 Q400 with working cockpit. That'll be interesting to see how good that is. But anyways, people will put out all this freeware. But the thing that I thought was interesting about this, somewhere here the other day I saw, I think they reached 500,000 sign-ups or something. Somewhere in here I saw it. They listed how many people had signed up for this, and it was something like 500,000 people had signed up to flightsim.to as members. So I mean, and they're not all going to be hardcore users, but just 500,000 people who are interested enough in Flight Simulator to sign up for this website. And you can download for free without signing up if you're interested. But yeah, there it is. Sorry, yeah, 100,000 members. 100,000 members hit. There it is. What's new on? It's also 110,000 users. 7 million downloads, but just the fact that 110,000 people like this site enough to sign up for it, because you can download most of the stuff for free, most of the smaller packages for free. You only have to be a member 100% if you want to download some of the really big packages, and it's still free, but you just have to be logged in. but 110,000 people signed up. So that's a huge number of people who are downloading, freeware content for Microsoft Flight Simulator. It makes you wonder what is truly the long-term size of this community now that Microsoft Flight Simulator is out there. And so how many units could a company like Aerosoft sell? I mean, it's hard to compare, obviously, a freeware, free sign-up website with a payware airplane. That's not inexpensive, but nevertheless, you got to figure that at 50 euros a pop, and if they sold 10,000 of them, that's 500,000 euros in revenue, and that's probably a low-end estimate at the end of the day. So they've easily paid their bills for the year and then some. A lot of their bills for the year. I don't know what their bills are. I don't know how many people they actually have on staff, but they paid a good portion of their staff for the year. They paid a lot of their bills for the year with that airplane. Let's see what else. Other news. Let's see here. Of course, everyone's favorite event is coming up very quickly here. If I can just find what I'm looking for here. There it is. Also what I was looking for, so Across the Pond Westbound 2021 is coming up in 3 weeks, I guess, from tomorrow, for anyone that is interested, and it is featuring a larger array of airports than ever, and this is something that has been sort of worked towards by VATSIM for a little while now. They've been trying to diversify this event to help stop the absolute, complete, total crunch and bottleneck of aircraft flying through one small chunk of airspace, that'd be in the oceanic airspaces, and usually Shannon, London, and Moncton on the other side, Gander, Moncton on the other side. Between those couple of areas, the traffic is just completely untenable. That just is not really possible for, only staffed normally by a handful of controllers to handle the volume of traffic that exceeds real-world traffic levels. So one thing that's been sort of being pushed for a little while for Across the Pond is how can we sort of diversify it a little bit more, spread the traffic out over a larger area. Still have the event, still have tons of traffic, but maybe spread it out a little bit so that the controllers are not so completely overwhelmed, because it's not the airports that are the crunch point, it's the en route airspace in the middle that has been the crunch for a very long time. This is one of the steps that that has been taken with Across the Pond now, is increasing the number of airports. Traditionally there were 5 departure, 5 arrival airports. This year there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 departure airports and 9 arrival airports. So there's still going to be roughly the same number of spots. I think there's going to be a small increase from the previous event. I think it's something like a 10% increase, but still a large number. Still a large number of airports, a large number of slots, but distributed across a larger number of airports. So it's going to be a little bit less traffic at each airport, which, and it's a little bit of a shame because I think everyone likes to see the busy airports. But what that allows them to then do is spread the traffic over a slightly larger time in that central airspace, and also spread it out laterally as well, because these airports are kind of farther apart. It's not going to be people flying a couple of common routes. There's going to be more different, diverse routes, and they're going to be covering a larger geographic area. They're also going to be covering a larger time frame, because some of these are pretty far. You've got San Francisco and Denver. Those are very far away. Now, mind you, those are the arrivals, so they don't impact too much. It's more the departures. But trying to get some of the departures that are perhaps a little farther afield, and still a lot of these really are pretty close to the Atlantic. I mean, a lot of this is England here. Frankfurt's pretty far away. I believe this is Lisbon. I don't even know my airport codes well enough. I do not know my airport codes well enough here. Certainly not in Europe. Malpensa, so Italy. So LIMC is Italy. That's good. That's another extra hour. So it sort of spreads the event out a little bit further. If everyone's leaving at the same time, it sort of spreads that central traffic out a little bit more. Yeah, LPBT is Lisbon. So, you know, we're getting a little bit more diversity, getting a few airports that are a little farther away from the Atlantic so that if everyone starts at the same time, the traffic's kind of spread over a longer time. That also helps spread out the load for the controllers so they're not so overwhelmed the whole time. So this is something you're going to see, I think, more and more in the future is the VATSIM planning team trying to shift the focus of across the pond, and not shift the focus of it, but just spread it out so that the traffic load is more reasonable across a large portion of the network, because it's been problematic in years past, and the biggest reason it's been problematic is just simply too many airplanes squeezing into the same small chunk of airspace for too short a period of time. So by just trying to spread out that, both geographically, laterally move them a little bit farther apart, and also time-wise spread it out so that they're spread over a slightly larger time because of where they departed from. The first people are halfway across the Atlantic before the second wave of people reach the Atlantic. It just spreads it out, makes it a little bit more reasonable for people to try and control. And it's still going to be busy, but it's going to be a little bit easier for people to control. So, anyways, that's coming up in 3 weeks, so I hope you guys are thinking about that. I don't know if the slots are open yet. I don't think they are. I had it up here a second ago. I don't think booking slots are open yet. Or are they? I don't know yet. I've never actually flown CTP because I've always controlled for it. But I don't think bookings are open yet. I don't know when they're going to be open. I also don't know if there's going to be the lottery style system. I think the lottery system is going to prevail again, because I think it was determined to be the most fair in the long run. Someone's going to get shafted every year, but I think the other thing was that with the lottery system, they were going to also keep track of who applied and who didn't win, and they were going to get an increased chance of winning a slot the next time around, as much as the number of slots allowed. So I think that's the fairest way to do it. It's not, you know, people have lives. Trying to say, oh, you have to be online at this time to book a slot or you don't get a slot. It's not fair to people who are in different time zones, diverse time zones. It's not fair to people who perhaps have to work or go to school at the particular time when the slots that they want are released. So I think at the end of the day, the lottery is probably the fairest way. And it sucks if you don't win for a certain time around. But if they can try to make it so that the winnings are then weighted so that those who didn't win one time will be more favored to win the next time, I think that's even more. I think that makes it more fair in the long run, that everyone tries to get a chance to participate. At the end of the day, it comes down to limited resources on the VATSIM network. There's only so many controllers. It takes a long time to train controllers. One of the reasons that makes the network great is the fact that the controllers are fairly skilled at what they do, even for being hobbyists. So, I've seen people say, well, why don't we just staff more controllers? You could do that in theory, but you have to train them first. It takes easily 6 months to train a controller from not knowing anything to getting up to one of the higher ratings, to getting their upper ratings. Easily 6 months, and oftentimes a lot more. So it's not something that happens overnight. It's not something that happens instantly. It takes a long time to get people trained. So it's not going to happen quickly, unfortunately, as much as people would like it to. But that's one of the things that makes the network good, is that the people who are out there are well trained, and just trying to make sure that we get enough of them out there. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to there's a limited resource, and not everyone's always going to get to participate. If everyone participated constantly, everything would just absolutely grind to a halt, because it would be absolute total gridlock in the skies. So there's got to be some kind of restriction, metering, to maintain a reasonable level of service for everybody participating in the event. And for those that are not participating in the event, those that don't get a slot, there's always still tons of stuff you can do. You can fly around between the event airports on both sides of the Atlantic, and you may not get 8 hours of sitting there in the flight deck looking straight ahead like we're doing right now, but you'll get a great service at both ends if you fly in and out of the other controlled airports. the ATC is going to be online covering vast areas, so you know, you could fly Toronto over to Denver if you wanted to on that day. You could fly, you know, you could fly Shanwick down to, I've already closed it here, but you could fly Shanwick down to Portugal, and you'll get full ATC coverage from one end to the other. It'll be great for you. So even if you don't get a slot, don't fret. I think you can still find tons of fun stuff to do and be a part of the event, even if you're not flying across the pond. Alright, how are we doing here? We're getting there. We now have about 3 hours to go. 3 and something hours to go. 3.5 hours to go. Where am I here? Live map. Flying south over Idaho. Still a long way to go. One neat thing I did notice about Sim Toolkit Pro that's been added recently, for anybody that hasn't seen it, there's a new option to highlight your preferred airports that you fly in and out of. So what you see here is I've got my overlays. I've got my MSFS airports overlaid, or I can delete that and overlay my P3D airports, which unfortunately I haven't put in there very well yet. I've only got one indicated right there. But you know, if you're sitting here, you can look at the world map and try and find airports that you know you like, that you want to fly into and out of. So under settings, settings, and then at the bottom you can create a list of sim airport scenery, airports that you have good scenery for. So I put my payware scenery, I put the enhanced default, their featured default airports in here as well. So then when I look at the map, if I'm trying to just figure out where I want to fly a particular day, I can see, hey, what airports do you have around here? A great tool for those of you guys that have tons of airports installed in your sim and you've forgotten all the airports you have installed. So here's, you know, this is just the North American airports, but it's quite a few airports around here. So you can pick different combinations of flights. You can see what's available to you with those detailed airports if you prefer those detailed airports, and I do. I just can't stand default airports anymore. I just can't do it anymore. So I really one day need to go through and add my P3D airports. And you can actually also scan your scenery library as well and add them automatically. I haven't seen it work very well. You can't even do it in P3D. I used to be able to. I swear you were able to. But I need to go through and add all the airports that I have good scenery installed for, so that I can then just be able to look at my live map and say, hey, where do I want to fly today? So that's a really neat feature that you can turn on and off. You don't have to have it on all the time, but it's a really neat feature for those of you that have a hard time remembering what airports you got in your scenery library. And because you forget about them and then you never fly to them, and you're like, oh yeah, I did have that airport, I should fly there once in a while. So you can see these flights, you can see where they are relative to each other as well. You can see these airports relative to each other. So I thought that was a really neat feature. I think that's probably a common problem for a lot of simmers. I have way more scenery than I know what to do with, and I forget what scenery I have, especially some of the free offers that you've gotten over the years. I've gotten, you know, last year when the first lockdowns happened, the sim market had their stay-at-home specials where every day they had a different free software. A lot of different airports, occasionally some airplanes, lots of different stuff, and there was tons of free stuff. So I picked up tons of stuff that I've never even used yet, and I just added it to my library in the hopes that one day I might want to use it. So I've got more airports than I know what to do with sometimes. So having a way to keep track of them and having that available in Sim Toolkit Pro as a live interactive map is a great way to keep track of those. You've got to kind of go through the effort of actually adding them all in manually, but it's a lot less effort to just go and look up the airport codes and type in the airport codes into that map, and it'll draw them all correctly, than having to actually go through and install them all, or go through all your installers and see what you've got. So I think it's a really neat feature. I definitely have more scenery than I know what to do with. Hey, got bullet 123. Welcome to the stream. It's nice to see you here. We are slowly making our way to Puerto Vallarta. We are 23% of the way there. Just barely even left Canada. Got across all of America, and then we got across a good 500 miles of Mexico as well. So we got a long way to go. This is not going to be a full live stream for the whole 5 hours, because this is a 5-hour flight. We're about an hour and 20 minutes into our flight, I think, here. Want to buy the A321? Are you talking about the Aerosoft A321? Aerosoft. Well, here's. Oh, Tolus. Okay, yeah. So I think that's an X-plane, is it not? I do have a few friends that fly with that, and they do like it a lot. They think it's a very worthwhile product. They $80 is a lot. It absolutely is. You've got to think to yourself, what benefit are you going to get out of it too, right? Or how much time are you gonna spend in it? Is it something that you're going to fly for a couple of flights and then probably pass on it, or are you going to be out in it, at least once or twice a week for the foreseeable future? Because even the CRJ, like I had the same debate briefly with the CRJ with myself, although because I mean that wasn't inexpensive either. I think it worked out. I think it was €50, so $50 US, 67 Canadian, I think, or 62 Canadian dollars. Not cheap. But again, yeah, how much are you going to get out of it? Like I sort of toyed with the CRJ and said, will it be worth it to me? And then I said, yes, I really like Microsoft Flight Simulator. I'm going to fly that airplane a ton over the next few months because I really need a good airliner in Microsoft Flight Simulator, and that's what I've been looking forward to. So I feel like I'm going to get my money's worth out of the CRJ. $80 is a lot. It really is. It's true. I'm not gonna debate that. At the end of the day, you have to decide if it's worth it for you. But if you're going to get a lot of flying out of it, then it probably will be worth it in the long run. I don't know if Tolus ever has sales. You can always Google it. Apparently I'm just Googling it, and apparently the 319 did go on sale one time for $59, $60. So I guess they do have sales periodically. There are some companies out there. Yeah, there are some companies out there that only have that almost never have sales, and then there's other companies that have sales like every second month. So you do have to kind of find out what's worth it. Can you wait till Christmas? Because it looks like that was when that looks like when it was on sale was in December. So yeah, yeah, it's tough sometimes justifying spending that much money on an airplane. It makes you appreciate the sales all that much more when you do. Well, the other thing is, can you distract yourself with something else then in the meantime while you wait for that sale? Because it's 8 months till Christmas again, my friend. So do you have something else you can distract yourself with until then? Sometimes I just can't wait for the sales. I try to as much as possible. I appreciate the idea of getting a decent deal, and I know these developers work hard and put a lot of effort into their projects. But at the same time, I also only have a limited budget. I use the sales just to make my budget go further. It's not that I probably spend less on flight simulation. I just buy 2 things instead of 1 when they're on sale. Yeah. Until then, you'll just have to watch YouTube videos and live streams and enjoy other people flying it. The trouble with trying to live through other people is that I end up just giving in sooner if I end up taking that strategy. If I end up just trying to watch YouTube videos and make the most out of it over a period of time just by watching YouTube videos, I end up looking at it and enjoying it so much I end up probably buying it sooner than if I just ignored it altogether. The other thing you can do while you're waiting is try to read the manuals and be ready when you buy it. 8 months is probably a little bit of a long time, but that was one thing I did certainly in the lead up to the CRJ release. I think when they confirmed their release date, I think basically at that point when they were confirmed their release date, I downloaded the manuals. They posted the manuals online a couple weeks in advance. I downloaded the manuals, started reading the manuals, so like on day one I was already a leg up on it and ready to kind of hop in. I understood some of the functionality of it, where to find different things. I understood the airplane to a decent degree, because it was a new airplane to me, so I had to read, I had to read all about where everything was in the flight deck and all that. So it was a new airplane to me. So even just doing some research ahead of time and doing some practicing and learning, so that when you actually do finally download it and get installed in your system, you're ready to go and really make the most out of it. And if you're familiar with the A320 family, then you don't probably have to read too much. Only things specific to them, like perhaps how their EFB functions or anything like that. Alright, any ATC on VATSIM? Nothing yet. Got a few grounds and towers online, but nothing much happening in terms of en route. Yeah, just the EFB, if there's a configuration program or whatever that goes with it, how to configure and set up the sim, or the ACARS system is often different from one airplane to the next too. If they simulate the ACARS system at all, how do you use that? Oh. One thing I liked about doing those Dash 8 flights back at the beginning of my pilot's life career was you could get them done in one go. You didn't have to step out of the flight deck, but I'm beginning to think already it's going to be time to step out of the flight deck soon. I've been talking for almost 2 hours straight now. My throat is already dying here. Might need to refill my coffee cup at the very least. And I don't see any ATC online. That's the other thing too, so that's what's making me think to myself I should probably hop off shortly, unless anybody's got anything else they want to ask or talk about. Yes, I am a currently underemployed real-life pilot. Just added my logbook the other week. A little under 9,000 hours in it. It was 8,800 and something. I forget exactly how much. Background jazz music going. I do not fly the 737. I only fly PMDG 737. I have to say I've gotten fairly used to this flight deck. I like it now that I've gotten used to it. I remember the first time I picked this up. I picked up the PMDG 737 for FSX Steam Edition. Was the first airplane. I got it on a recommendation from somebody else. Oh, is my anti-ice still on? I thought I turned that off. That's why she's struggling here. That's why she's struggling to climb. And I remember, like, when I first started up, I'm like, I'm never going to figure out this flight deck. It's so complicated. There's so many switches up here, and they're all, who knows, it's so complicated to get it all going, and now I just do it without even thinking about it. So, yeah. Yeah, so I remember thinking how complicated this airplane was with all the different switches and generators and everything in packs, and you all had to manually cycle all those controls. I thought I was never going to learn this, and now I feel like it's very second nature. So it does take some time, but I feel very comfortable in the 737 now. I do like it. I think it's a very, for what it is, for the generation of airplane it is, there's a lot of switch flipping, but that was the way it was back in the days. There weren't a lot of automated systems implemented in these airplanes. Everything had to be done manually by the pilots. So, now I'm flying an Embraer, and the Embraer is an incredibly automated airplane. It's not quite to the level of the Airbus, but it's very close in terms of certainly the systems. The integration of the systems is very automated. You barely have to do anything to get the airplane going. I think I counted it one day from just from before engine start to takeoff. I think there's like 38 different steps you have to do in the 737. In the Embraer, it was like 9. It's very much automated. The electrical systems all transfer themselves automatically. The bleed system turns itself on and off automatically. Very little you really have to do manually in the Embraer. Not like this thing. This thing is just absolutely insane. I think the Airbus is probably the most automated airplane. It's although even the and I haven't flown the Dreamliner. I wonder how automated the Dreamliner is, because it really is Boeing's next generation of airplane. Yeah, so the A320 is very easy. It's funny because like I flew this 3.7 before I flew the 320 in the simulator, and the 320 it's amazing how quick and easy it is to get it set up and going and get a flight going in the A320. And the checklists are so short as a result too. There's very little on the checklists. You basically set up the FMC, make sure the adders are aligning, turn on the fuel pumps, and that's it. The fuel pumps are pretty much the only manual thing in the airplane. Everything else comes on and off automatically. So you almost feel guilty when you're done setting up the 320. You're like, that was it? I'm ready to go flying? Isn't there like 17 more steps I have to do to go flying? And no, there isn't. No, you're ready. And then it's nice. It really is. It takes a lot of the load off. It also it's better for the airlines because it's much more efficient to get the airplane turned around if you only have to just you're not constantly flipping a lot of switches, but you're just simply setting up the FMC and boom, we're ready to go again on our next leg. So it's a lot more efficient for the airlines too if you don't have to do nearly as much switch flipping. And as you said, like half the fun is all the switch flipping until something goes wrong, until you throw the wrong switch. You're like, oh shit, damn it. Let's take the pilot out of that equation if we can. Yeah, the gate to taking off in 3 minutes in the A320. Yeah, I can see that. When you become comfortable with an airplane, it's possible. The Dash 8 is another one that, like the 737, is very manual. There's a lot of manual stuff in the Dash 8. I was overwhelmed when I started in the Embraer at how simple it was compared to the Dash 8. The Dash 8, the checklists had like 20 items in them, and the originating check in the Dash 8 was, I think, 53 items. And then you get into the Embraer and it's like, oh, there's like 9 items on here. I think the longest checklist in the Embraer is 6 items long. Why are the lights still on here? No, they're not on. That's off. That's off. But the funny thing is, like the Dash 8, like I can do a quick and dirty start in the Dash 8 and go from like a cold and dark flight deck to like ready to take off in about 3 minutes. Maybe 5 minutes if you include like a minute for each engine start, but like I can really quick and dirty start the Dash 8 really quick now because I just am very familiar with it. Any tips for better learning the 737? The thing I did that I found helped me learn how to operate the airplane was I made my own version of the checklist. I went through the PMDG manual, through the 737 manual step by step, and I basically copied the steps and just wrote out like sort of like a mini checklist. But just doing that alone helped me learn the order of the items, so I found that helped because there is a lot. And then I just started I picked up the checklist the first few times and I go through it, and as time went on I just started doing it less and less. I know the things that have to get done. Part of the thing you can do to learn an airplane too is to learn the reason why you're doing something. Don't just do it just because the manual told you to. Understand why you're doing it. Why do I have to switch the generators? Oh, because otherwise there's no power to the airplane. But, understanding why you cut off different switches and set different switches at different times, understanding the systems behind it will help you remember what you're doing and why it needs to be done. So if you really want to learn an airplane well, you need to understand the systems underneath the switches, what they're doing, so that you can do them properly. Is that your checklist right there? Now I'm going to open this up. Because that was one thing that I did. Yeah, that's exactly the kind of thing I did. Yeah, it doesn't look great, but it works for you, right? So that's what matters. But yeah, that's exactly what I did with something like that. And I just wrote it up myself because I find I'm a very good learner when I write stuff out. That is one of my biggest things, is if I can write something out, write it a bunch of times, or even just write it once, but it really helps me commit it to memory if I write it out. So yeah, that's something that I would encourage if you're trying to learn the airplane. That and learn the systems underneath. Know why you're doing things a certain way, why you can't do things in a certain order, why you have to do things in a certain order. That really helps you learn the airplane. Well, and running an airplane and landing an airplane are two different things. Managing the systems in an airplane is very different from trying to learn how to fly the airplane. And I'll be honest, flying sims is not great. Trying to grease a landing in a sim is very difficult because it lacks the feeling. Yeah, you have so much muscle memory in the Airbus family. Yeah, you get that too. Landing an airplane, though, in the sim is very different from real life, because in the sim, it's purely a visual exercise. There's no feedback from the other senses, especially feeling the airplane moving underneath you. When I used to fly the Dash, it was very much you would control the power by feel. You would feel the airplane's speed changing underneath your seat, and you would adjust the power in the Dash 8 sometimes without even realizing it, based on what you feel before you ever see a trend on the airspeed indicator. The airspeed indicator, if you see the trend on the airspeed indicator, it's already too late. You need to feel it. Without feeling it, it's hard to do. It's hard to really learn how to fly airplanes well. You can learn how to manage the airplane in terms of systems, how to run the FMS and all that other stuff, but this sim will never replace actually flying an airplane and remembering how to land an airplane, which is unfortunate, because there's a lot of people right now on layoff, and this is the closest they get to an airplane right now. And when they get back in the airplanes again after a year or so of absence, it's gonna be brutal for them for the first little while, trying to remember how to deal with those feelings, how to deal with those lost skills. Any tips for becoming a commercial pilot? Don't do it. It takes a lot of perseverance, a lot of personal sacrifice in the long run. You're going to end up probably working a lot of low-paying jobs for a long time before you really kind of get into the airline level jobs, and especially now. It's an interesting time right now, because really the trouble is no one knows what's going to happen next in the industry. So before this all happened, and I was talking to my bosses just a little while ago, and they were banging their heads on the wall 15 months ago saying, how are we going to find people to sit in the seats? They could not find enough pilots to save their lives. They just were losing guys left, right, and center, and there's just nobody to replace them. They couldn't find anybody. The industry-wide shortage, the pilot shortage that had been talked about for 10 years, really arrived about 2 or 3 years ago, and it just absolutely was going gangbusters. You could pretty much fire a resume at a company that you wanted to work for, and you would probably get a phone call within like 48 hours. And they were called, our company was cold calling people. They were actually asking our staff, if you know anybody who's a pilot who might want to come work here, can we have their phone number? And they would actually go out of their way to call the pilot and say, hey, would you like to come and work for this company for this salary? Cold calling, something that I don't think ever happened in the history of this industry. Was happening just a year ago, just over a year ago. Not anymore. Although, yes, you're right, I did read that in the news. United has actually started hiring again. They have already recalled everyone from layoff, and they've started hiring, which just blows my mind, because it seems like most companies outside of the United States are still like easily 50% layoff or more. But yeah, American said they're going to pretty much unpark all their airplanes that are parked in the desert right now. They're going to be bringing them back to online to service within the next 2 to 3 months. They think almost every airplane that they parked last year is going to be back online within the next 2 to 3 months. United is hiring. In the United States, things are starting to go gangbusters again. The airlines are expecting a gangbusters summer. And that's the thing, yeah, you say that, don't go flying for the first few months. It's going to be absolutely insane trying to get these people back up to speed. People who, and I don't think, in the case of America, a lot of the pilots did not get laid off, although they had their hours reduced. But outside of America, a lot of pilots got laid off. After a year, your skills have atrophied. And then how do you bring these people back? The company I work for, their training department's been reduced to 4 people. Because there's so few people flying that they don't need to constantly train these people. So how do you ramp up the training to get hundreds of people back online, in a matter of months? Normally, if you could train 10 to 20 pilots in a month at a smaller company, that's amazing. So how do you get hundreds of pilots online in a couple of months? It's gonna be crazy. Should you apply to 10 airlines? Interesting. Right now, it's not the best market. Hopefully, once we sort of put COVID behind us, it'll go back to the way things were, where there was a bit of a shortage, and you could pick the company you want to work for. Probably one of the biggest things you'll want to decide is what kind of lifestyle do you want as a pilot, and try to find a company that's going to suit that. Because at the end of the day, airplanes are airplanes. don't chase the airplanes. Don't chase the heaviest airplanes, especially. Usually they're the best paying, but a paycheck does not necessarily equate to a good lifestyle. What kind of a lifestyle do you want? Like, do you want to work a lot? Do you want to work a little? Do you want to actually do takeoffs and landings? Like, if you don't mind doing 3 takeoffs and landings in a month, go fly long haul. Go fly 8-10 hour flights and do four turns a month, and you only do 1 of the landings on each turn. You know, you'll do 4 landings a month and make all your credits. But if you want to go and see places overseas, that might be the way to go. If you actually enjoy the challenge of flying, you might want to think about a regional or a domestic carrier, one that does shorter legs, maybe a couple of legs in a day. What kind of places do you like to fly to? Do you want to, how many days off do the companies offer, and what kind of benefits they offer? These are the kind of things you should ask yourself. The airlines, a lot of the airplanes are more or less the same once you start getting into it. So what do you want to do outside of your time as a pilot? And what do you want to do with your time as a pilot? Do you want to do long haul flying? Are you okay to sit here for 8 hours talking to the guy next to you and do 1 landing at the end of all of it? Or do you want to do something a little bit more interesting? And don't discount things like charter flying as well. Charter flying is a really, really fun experience. It's different from airline flying. It's more of an adventure. You're often going to places you've never been to before, and you may often work like weird hours and multiple legs in a day, but there'll also be the adventure aspect of it. You get to a hotel that you've never been to before, and you ask people for, okay, what's a good place to go eat around here? There's a big sense of adventure when you're doing charters. When you work the airline industry, it's very consistent. You go to the same airports, you go to the same hotels. You don't work with the same people over and over again, but you end up going to the same places, so the destinations get very consistent. So yeah, a lot of people sort of, when they get into this business, they're really chasing the airplanes. Don't chase the airplanes. That's the biggest thing I can tell you. Find out what the contracts are, what your union contracts are, what you're entitled to as a pilot, and what kind of flying you might really be into. Think about it seriously. Flying the biggest airplanes is not necessarily the most fun. Regional flying is grueling, but it's a lot of challenges too. It's a lot of workload, but it's also a lot of fun too. You're actually doing multiple takeoffs and landings in a day versus doing 1 10-hour leg, and then that's it. Sit at the destination for 3 days and then come back on another 10-hour leg. Some people like that. Some people like that. I don't know if I could do long haul flying in the reality of it all. See, and if you got another thing on the side too, then that's also useful too. A lot of pilots have a side gig. This is my side gig, sitting here talking to you guys. But yeah, a lot of pilots have a side gig, and that's a good idea, because then maybe doing some long hauling where you're just working for 1 day, but then you have a lot of days off. And real estate's a good one because you can do a lot of it remotely. Obviously, you have to be there for showings and whatnot, but a lot of your work, making offers and such, you can do often with clients remotely. So those are definitely that's a very common one. There's a lot of, not a lot, but there's quite a few pilots that are also realtors on the side that I know, because that's a job that has very flexible hours, so you can very much flex it around your aviation schedule. A lot of employers are not willing to be flexible around that, so. Yeah. But that's the biggest thing. I didn't know that going into this, how important lifestyle could be, but at the end of the day, it kind of came down to lifestyle is fairly important. I mean, you do need to make a decent living and make sure you are being paid enough to get by and save for your retirement, but at the same time, lifestyle is important. It's not about chasing the biggest airplanes in the sky. It really is not. And that's the thing, if it's a side gig, you don't have to make a ton of money off it. You can just sell a few houses here and there. You don't have to make tons of money because you obviously have a main employment. This is just a little extra money and something else to keep you busy on the side. Just don't forget to leave time for your personal life too. Some people I have a few people I know that they just do nothing but work. Some of them just work their side gigs whenever they're not in aviation. Some people just come in every single day on their day off. They call up and they say, hey, you got any open flying? Can I come in and do some overtime? And they'll work 190 or 190. They'll work 120 hours, 90 to 120 hours in a month because they have nothing else to do. It's important to get out of the flight deck once in a while too. says the man who streams at home. Huh. Alright, where are we now? So now I think we've crossed kind of the coastal Rockies. We're kind of into the central basin here. I believe FFU was right near Salt Lake City. So I think we're just coming to the bottom end of Idaho on our way to Salt Lake City. Still no ATC online as far as the eye can see, unfortunately. But I think I am going to take my first break now. As much as I've enjoyed this conversation, I've just... My voice is running out of ability to talk here. I need to go get a drink and take a little personal break. So I think I'm going to step away, guys, for a little bit. How many long-haul pilots are single and divorced? Yeah, the answer is a lot. Make sure if you do get married to anybody in this business, they know what they're in for. They know what your business is about. They know that you're not going to be there a lot. And that's unfortunate. A lot of people do not know and understand when they get into this business, or their significant others do not know and understand, and they're not honest with them about what this business really costs you personally. The last year has been kind of really nice, just because even though we haven't been flying much, I also haven't been away from home very much, which has been a blessing. It's been really nice to be home as much as I have. It really has. Before that, I was just always away, and sometimes it's sad and depressing. Sometimes it's frustrating because you miss important things because you're at work and you can't come home that day. You can't take just one day off because you're gone on a 3-day pairing. So it's either 3 days off and lose 3 days of pay, or miss a special occasion, and that happens way too much. So it's not an easy business to be in, and it's not easy on the family. The family's got to know, certainly your significant other's got to understand what it's about before you marry them, because it's not an easy lifestyle. Anywho. Yeah, I'm going to step away for a little bit, guys, because I think I've been here for more than long enough. So I'm going to step away for a little bit. I think I'll be back in about 45 minutes, unless we see some ATC before that, and then I might come back online before that. So we'll say 17:45, maybe even 17:30. I'll be back in the flight deck. But I'm going to take a little break now for my own sanity. But if you guys have any questions, put them in the chat for now, and I'll definitely read them when I come back. And in the meantime, I do appreciate, guys, you watching all the time. Thank you so much. And stick with me, and we will be back in just a little bit.
are still determined to push ahead.
Of course. But only halfway.